political moments unfolding before our very eyes.
And of course, we haven't forgotten the big breaking news from Scotland today. Of course, the resignation of the First Minister there, Humza Yousaf. We will be hearing from the former Deputy First Minister of Scotland, John Swinney. Some people are saying that he could be an interim leader for the SNP. Shall we go back to Edinburgh and speak to our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire, I believe? Ah, yes, we are talking to you, Tony. What are we expecting?
Well, so John Swinney, as you said, the former First Minister, Deputy First Minister under Nicola Sturgeon. Now, when Nicola Sturgeon hung up her boots, John Swinney said that he would happily step in as an interim, but he didn't want the job then. This time round, well, he's not made the same decision. Now, he is speaking at the Resolution Conference down in London. Now, that's basically celebrating 25 years of devolution, your absolute favourite topic, Emily. But he is expected to, make some kind of comments as to whether he will throw, or at least is interested. He's keeping his cards fairly close to his chest right now, but seemingly as soon as the news this morning broke that we could be expecting some kind of resignation from Humza Yousaf, his name was pretty much the first that cropped up. Now, of course, on top of him, we also have Kate Forbes. She is also another running favourite, due in part because of how close she came to Humza Yousaf the last time. But it feels at this point that this almost an annual SNP leadership race. I really hope that I don't have to put this month into my calendar.
I'm just going to stop you there.
We've
got John Swinney here. Let's take it away.
He's decided to step down. He's been a pioneer as First Minister, the first person of colour to hold the office of First Minister of Scotland, and he's led our country with empathy, with care, and with an emphasis always on bringing people together. So I very much regret the fact that he's felt it necessary today to stand down.
Some of your senior colleagues are urging you to stand to try and get the SNP back into a more stable position. Are you going to do it?
I'm giving very careful consideration to standing to be the leader of the SNP. I've been somewhat overwhelmed by the requests that have been made of me to do that, with many messages from many colleagues across the party. So I'm giving that issue very active consideration, and it's likely I'll have more to say about that in the days to come.
That sounds very much like a yes.
I'm going to give it consideration. I've got lots of things to think about. There's the whole question of my family, and I have to make sure that I do the right thing by my family. They're precious to me. I have to do the right thing by my party and by my country. So there's lots to be thought about, and I'll give all of that consideration in the days to come.
This looks like a catastrophic miscalculation on the part of Humza Yousaf over the Butte House agreement. Should it have ended, and did Humza ask you first?
There was quite clearly strains within the Butte House agreement, and it's important that these issues are considered carefully and handled with care. And obviously, I spent a large amount of my time in government doing exactly that in the past. So it's important that those are the values and the characteristics that are brought to how we deal with other political parties, and particularly now the SNP will be a minority government in the Scottish Parliament. It's important that there is an approach taken which ensures that we work carefully with all political parties in the Scottish Parliament.
So that sounds like the Greens are still out of the picture then?
Well, we've obviously got to, the Scottish Government in the years ahead is going to have to find agreement with people of other persuasions, because you can't pass a budget without a majority in Parliament. You can't pass a law without a majority in Parliament. So it's really important that we work with other political parties to make sure that we are in a position to govern effectively and wisely in the interests of everyone within Scotland.
And should the SNP just accept its fate and call a snap Holyrood election?
Parliaments, like the Scottish Parliament, are elected for a fixed term. It's a 5-year period, and we should see out that 5-year period. Yes, there's changes of personnel and leadership during that period, but the Parliament was elected for 5 years, and it should sit for 5 years.
Mr Swinney, just finally, last year's leadership election was pretty bruising. It was very personal. There were a lot of factional fights came out into the public. Do you think that will happen again? And where do you think the SNP should end up on the political spectrum by the end of this leadership contest?
I've always believed that the right place for the Scottish National Party is as a moderate left-of-centre political party in the mainstream tradition of Scottish public opinion. You only ever win success if you're in line with the mainstream of public opinion in the country, and that's where I've always endeavoured to make sure the SNP was positioned, and I think that's where the SNP should be positioned in the future. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Can I just emphasise what a bizarre spectacle that was? OK, so that is John Swinney, the SNP former Deputy First Minister there, who, can I just say, called a press conference before Humza Yousaf had resigned.
Yeah.
Right? Called that press conference. There's been massive anticipation for it. And then he comes out and he says, I'm considering standing. I'm considering standing.
Meanwhile, you've had a number of senior characters and former senior characters from the SNP saying how brilliant it would be if John Swinney stood up to the plate and took the position of First Minister, at least in an interim period. And there he calls this big press conference only to say he's considering it and he'll have an answer in the coming days.
Well,
OK.
What's changed, John, between what, 10 o'clock this morning, was it, about when he called that press conference? I think something along those lines, and where we are now. Ian Blackford's given him his backing, so it remains to be seen whether or not that's the kiss of death. But Ian Blackford, the former Westminster leader, has said, you know, he'd make a good choice and that would all be OK. I think someone that has operated right through the period of the SNP being in government. He was deputy leader under Nicola Sturgeon. Is this another continuity candidate? Fascinating, though, isn't it? Because all the other noises are saying that the Green Party will be quite happy if he came on board. Is this not a continuation of the kind of politics that actually saw Humza Yousaf out on his backside a little bit earlier today when it comes to the kind of hyper-woke, ultra-green, ultra-progressive policies? And that seems to be what that guy's into.
And, of course, he did take the opportunity to dismiss an early election, dismiss a snap election. He said the SNP were elected for a 5-year period, so therefore they deserve to maintain that power, that position for that period of time. So, yes, very interesting that he called a press conference there. I wonder if he had more to say initially and then decided to take a little more time over his decision on this one. Curious.
Earlier this morning,